أنا اسمي Ahmed Nafie. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Modupay. Originally, Modupay started as a card manufacturer in 2003 as Masriya Card. The main focus in the first years was actually proving ourselves as a card manufacturer, because we operate in a very competitive environment where there are usually 4 to 5 global players that dominate the global scene. So it was quite hard at the beginning to establish ourselves as a trustable or a trusted card vendor to the banks. And this was not an easy feat. It took around 8 years. So by 2011, we started getting more banks on board in Egypt. 2012, 2013, we started growing across Africa. And by 2017, we found ourselves working with around 130 banks across 30 countries. So the question was, what more can we offer these banks? Because our focus was our customer, who's the bank. So what other service can we offer to banks? And from there, we started looking at the environment around us, and we saw a lot of banks were picking up digital payments, and more focus was on digital payments. And that's where the idea about where we thought it was quite simple. We're doing the card manufacturing, let's go vertically and do the card processing. And this was the whole idea that started the digital transformation in 2017. And 2019 is when we officially launched our payment processing arm, so our digital payments arm, and we rebranded to MDP, or Masriya Digital Payments. And again, here there was, the challenge was, again, proving ourselves. Are we a trusted processor to the banks or not? And this transition took around another 3 years. And by 2023, we were now trusted by around nearly 20 to 30 banks and fintechs on our digital banking arm. And from there, we thought, okay, same idea. What more can we offer to the banks we're working with? And 2023 was when banks started looking at fintechs as challengers in our region. And their idea was, how can we provide products that are similar to fintechs or even better than fintechs? And that's where we started building MDP Labs, which is the experience layer of MDP, which is bringing, basically converting a bank to become a fintech through their mobile applications. And by 2026, we thought, how can we rebrand ourselves to showcase all the services we're offering as a complete modular payments provider? And that's when we shifted our brand, or transformed our brand, to Modupay, which stands for Modular Payments Infrastructure. When I started working, leadership for me was really all about the leader, the one person in the company who's leading the company, who's working 9 to 5, or actually 9 to 9, who's always the first in the office, the last in the office to leave, the person I was going to the factory in the morning, meeting customers midday, and going back to the factory, traveling and returning to Cairo at 7 a.m. and being at the factory at 9 a.m. and at 12 p.m. having a meeting with a customer, always responding to the calls, always being there. I am the one person that everyone in the company can rely on. So this was my idea about leadership, and how could I get better is being more available, creating more hours in the day. And of course, as the company grew, I realized this is unsustainable, and actually this is not leadership. And in fact, I was becoming the person who was slowing the company down. So I started learning the hard way that leadership actually is all about leading the team around you, is actually finding the right people to work with you, selling them the idea about where do you think the company will go and how you will grow, building the strategy of the company, and really being the people that internally the company can rely on. In terms of talent management, hiring the right people, in terms of actually motivating the people day in, day out, in terms of when there's a problem, who the people can look at and try to help them solve these problems, but not solving them myself, but actually working with the people, giving them the motivation they need to do so. So actually leadership is all about actually motivating the people around you and seeing the future of the company, but not about the personal aspect that I'm doing myself, how good of a salesperson I am, how good of a operations person I am. And actually it's not about myself, it's all about what I can provide to my team. So the most important thing, and again, everything I learned the hard way. The most important thing about hiring is I look for 3 things. Number 1 is ownership, number 2 is accountability, and number 3 is agility, which was completely different maybe 3 years ago. 3 years ago, especially as we're building up MDP and hiring, remember we started from a fully manufacturing company, it was mainly blue collars, and then we moved into payment processing, which is mainly hiring engineers and white collars. So the level of people we were hiring and managing was completely different. So what I learned the most, and I learned the hard way, is that the single most important thing is ownership and accountability. It's not technical skills. Social skills are very important, because if you have good social skills, usually you'll be having good ownership and good accountability. But if you lack either of these, then regardless of what you do, you will find problems in our company. Our company relies on complete ownership, complete transparency, complete accountability, but also complete agility. I'm a person that likes change. We've changed from a card manufacturer to a payment processor. We've evolved from a payment processor to a complete payment ecosystem provider. I'm a person that likes change. I'm very comfortable with change. So if you want to work in an agile environment that's constantly growing, you have to be able to embrace change all the time. It's a very difficult medium to be in, where if you want to constantly be growing, because sometimes if you're constantly looking for growth, sometimes the team around you think that, are we not good enough? So that's always a good question. Are we good enough where we are, or do we constantly want to grow? The best answer I've heard about this was actually listening to athletes who are #1 in the world in the sports they were playing in, and listen to how they say, because they have the same problem. And what you learn is that if you don't strive to be constantly better, you will stop growing. The day you realize that I am actually quite good, I've reached a point where I'm very happy, and you start feeling full of yourself, is the day that actually you'll start to decline. So unfortunately, you have to be very humble. You have to be constantly looking for growth, while at the same time appreciating the position you're in. Every once in a while, you have to look back and see, okay, look at how many people are in the company. 5 years ago, we were 200 people in the company. Now we're 700 people. You have to appreciate the number of companies you operate in. So you have to be constantly focused on the growth, but also be appreciating the level you're in, and really appreciate and being very humble about it. And my mentor growing up, and my mentor at work until today, has always been my father. So, and if you look at how you deal with your parents, how you see your parents, is that how you see them changes over the years. So growing up, I saw my father a person who was always there for me, always available. I can count on him all the time. And actually what I realized and what I learned from him is, when I started working with him in 2010, was that he was also doing the same with his customers. So he was very customer focused. I wouldn't have expected this, that also the customers he's always there for the customers, trying to help them, trying to sort any problem they have, even if it comes at his own cost. Because his point of view was that anything you do with the customer will stay with them long term. If you actually support the customer, help the customer, even if they don't work with you 10 years later, they'll remember it, they'll call you back, and so actually being very customer focused, very patient with customers, and very long term with how we think about customers, not short term at all, not caring about the revenue this month, but looking a few years in advance. This was, I think, the single most important thing that I learned from my father over the years. It wasn't necessarily directed as a specific piece of advice, but something I learned, and this is what I try to teach with the rest of the team, which is be long with the customers. Always do whatever you can for your customer, because one day they will appreciate the value you're giving them. Maybe it's not today, maybe it's not tomorrow, but one day they'll appreciate it. Any support you give them, regardless of how much you're charging for it, the customers will appreciate it one day, and this is what will stay with you after a few years.